we should take seriously the pessimism that is so rampant in British culture the last 20 years. The third episode, Gregory Ferris at the top left testified to the Senate about the big threat facing Wall Street in 2006. And Sir Callum Mackenzie at the fundamentally supine authority, otherwise known as the Financial Services Authority, sent out a letter every Monday to city institutions saying, here's a threat, what would you do about it if it was happening? Every Monday for 6 months. What was that threat, ladies and gentlemen? Anybody care to venture? Was it hedge fund meltdown? Was it subprime crisis? Was it inflated bankers' bonuses? No, the big threat facing the City of London and Wall Street in 2006, according to testifiers to the Senate and the head of the FSA, you know what it was? Bird flu. Bird flu. There weren't enough masks in Morgan Stanley to protect their employees from the impending threat of bird flu. That was what Gregory Ferris said. So, you know, when people say, look, we need more regulation, I say, well, maybe, but we've had a whole lot of the wrong sort. It's not that we should not have any regulation. We should have some rules. But if you've got this kind of panic going down and this kind of prediction on the future, you can imagine that the health and safety culture has really run rampant, and we're looking at the wrong kind of legislation. And particularly on health matters, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that video games not only make you run amok in American universities, but they're also an enormous danger to the big threat, which I can see so evidently in this audience this morning, obesity. Yes, they cause obesity. And Alan Johnson looked a little bit obese himself. I'm here to tell the ladies in the audience that Brad Pitt is, by the body mass index, overweight, and George Clooney, clinically obese. So that might make you suspect the body mass index. Here they are, the New Labour, forecasting waistlines to 2050, a remarkable endeavour. And here they use the body mass index just for the white Caucasian population for reasons that remain obscure. Actually, it was invented in the 19th century, the BMI, and it had nothing to do with obesity then. Check it out. It's not very useful as a guide to whether you're fat or not. And don't get too thin, because then you really are likely to die young. Thinness is more a factor in dying early than fatness. Check it out. Well, here's the beautiful S-curve they did. The one in purple shows that 60% of the men in this audience will be obese or overweight by the year 2050. And you know it must be true. They've set up a whole model for it with algebra. You know, they got a Jamie Oliver variable kind of doing this, and they got a Nigella Lawson variable sort of bulking you up a bit. And you know that McKinsey has been somewhere near that forecast, because that's the model that they used, you know, to show. It's a rather fat model, actually, to show you how you did it. And then I learned a new word, which Alan Johnson was going on about, obesogenic environments. It's a road without a pavement, all right? Or it's a school with a McDonald's nearby. And he said, you know, obesogenic environments are a real threat to Britain. He hadn't read the report, because if you read the report, and some Joe Soap has to read these official reports, I make sure I do, you'll see that they say poor reliability of the evidence, you know, lack of a control group, lack of evidence, we don't know about the secondary effects, and they say, well, altogether, there's not much of a thing called obesogenic environments. But why let that bother you when you're trying to create a kind of intrusion on everybody's personal life about diet, smoking, fitness, parenting, and all the other things that we're still going to see a lot of with the new regime. When you really look at health panics, ladies and gentlemen, you know, The Guardian said that, quoting EU scientists, so it must be right, in 1999, that, you know, 400,000 people in Germany, then again in France and in Britain, should die or should be dying of mad cow disease. Then there's ADHD, that's what you've got listening to me. Disco TB, the tuberculosis you pick up at the discotheque. DVT, deep vein thrombosis, not only in planes but also from watching too much Sage software. We've all got a friend or a relative who's died from genetically modified foods, and the same is true of swine flu. It's quite remarkable that anybody's in the audience at all this morning. I know it's me speaking, but it's 9 o'clock and everything. Phthalates, anybody? Little pieces of plastic in the Apple iPhone. The EU has determined with regulation that if you lick a rubber duck in the bath for 200 years, you will become a laboratory rat. So, just stay away from that stuff. But actually, as you may know, and I've already said, we're all getting healthier. We're living longer. If we're so obese, why is it that life expectancies, and healthy life expectancies as well, are going up? So, health panics. After a time, you get a bit skeptical about forecasting. And just finally, the fourth of them, I'm not going to dwell on it a lot. I'm not going to try to outwit Mervyn King and tell you about double dip and so on. But one guy did predict the credit crunch. He had it coming a bit too early, but he's worth looking up. He's always Dr. Doom a bit. New York University, an Italian guy, rather clever. But obviously the credit crunch has destroyed the prestige of economic forecasting, no doubt about it. Well, that's some of the reasons for skepticism, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just give you a few sources that you might want to check out when you're looking at economic and much more social trends about things that you know are going to happen. If you go to Wikipedia, you can find out about anniversaries and birthdays, and you could probably build a marketing campaign around that. If you go to NASA, you might be able to connect up with the space launches that are likely to happen. If you search in the right way in Amazon, you can find out which books are going to be published in the next 12 months. Maybe you can hook something off that. So if you're looking in specialist literature, and Variety magazine's always great fun for movies, you can probably come up with marketing campaigns and avoid regulation as well. Food and Drug Administration, FDA. These things are pretty much certain to happen. Like tomorrow's going to be Friday. And like the Labour Party contest, it's going to be one big snooze. So, one can predict the future a bit, and I'm going to give you a few rules for that now. And the first of them is collect and suspect more forecasts than you do. Get the numbers, and more than numbers, we'll come to that. Read widely, and really, take your distance from the colour supplement view of the world. So if you're a small firm, you get numbers like this, and you understand why Scotland has really not created a Richard Branson or Sir Anthony Bamford of JCB. This is the number of small and medium enterprises per 10,000 inhabitants older than 16 in the year 2008. Wales isn't doing great. Northern Ireland's not doing bad. Scotland, not much of an entrepreneurial culture there. So get the numbers. It's not a forecast, it's only a snapshot of the past. But those numbers are not going to change very fast, as journalists love to say, anytime soon. So, read more widely than you do, if you can. Here's the Business, Innovation and Science Department R&D scoreboard, published just this year. Get a look at the research intensities of companies, of your clients, and so on. You'll see that, very sadly, M&S, even worse, Tesco and John Lewis, for every £1,000 that they earn, they're spending just £4 researching the future. I'm pleased to say that Sage, spending £140 million on research and development, and you can see their stand on usability outside, where they're spending a lot of money, they've really got a very creditable research intensity. Obviously, if you double the research funds, there's no guarantee that you'll double the innovation. As Einstein said, if we knew what we were doing, it wouldn't be called research. Rather important for our Philistines on research. But we do know, don't we, that if you're down there with BP, which is at 1%, and Shell, which is also at 1%, or might be 0.1%. I'll go and have a look at that. You're not going to get any innovation done. You're not going to be prepared for the kind of disasters that we all know about. So go to the R&D scoreboard and find out who's bothering and who not about the future. One thing we can say about usability that Sage is spending a lot of money and time on, very properly I should add, is that displays are going to be more important in the IT of the future. It's not just me that says that. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development in Paris also says it. Worth checking them out. So we'll see more signs. We'll see more computer monitors as buildings, which is what they do in Shanghai.